Hello and welcome to the morning after show presented by our friends over at betonline.ag. My name is Joshua Reimer. I'm joined by none other than Jared Block, who is on my right. Jared, how was your Tuesday, man?
Tuesday was good, dude. Pretty slow day in the sports community, so it was nice to kind of focus my efforts in other places. Um, but yeah, no, feeling good today. Have a big day ahead of us. Basically busy until the sun goes down now.
Nice. Yeah, that's Wednesdays for you, right? I mean, luckily my Wednesdays, I have this, I have a meeting with you and a few other people in the company, and then the day's over for me, and I start my technical weekend. So it's kind of like a half day on a Saturday for me, which is all right. We grind and we get to talk about sports. These streams are fun. These barely feel like work when I just get to talk sports with you, except for the fact that I have to talk about Duke losing, which I'm not excited for. But there's plenty to talk about before we have to talk about Duke losing. So if you have nothing else, let's get into it. Let's start talking about yesterday's NBA slate.
Yeah, let's do it. Not a huge one, but certainly a lot of stuff to talk about here.
Yeah, I feel like the first thing we should cap things off with is just the fact that we had a humongous win in the Roto Radar community. 5 figures win for Black Eddie. I know he's been a part of the community for a while here. He's one of my favorite guys in the community for sure. So I'm glad he was able to get that win. It was a huge win. I think it was like, what, 10x, 100x, something absolutely ridiculous. And I know he's having a good day today.
Yeah, for sure. He put in about 140 bucks, came out with 13 grand, so or almost 14 grand. So yeah, first place in several of the buy-ins, 25, 50, 10, 55. Crazy win for that dude on a 2-game slate nonetheless too. Like the amount of he didn't tie or split with anybody. So that's probably the most shocking thing that I saw from that.
Yeah, definitely impressive. Especially on 2 game slates, you don't see wins like that very often where you're not usually tie with someone. Usually something happens, but the fact that he was able to take first everywhere is really impressive. And the more impressive thing, he used the podcast, which is absolutely awesome. It warms my heart to see members take my words to heart and use the podcast, make your own lineups, and he did exactly that, and that's what helped him succeed.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you love it. It's the podcast does wonders too, and that's one of those things where if, especially on a 2-game slate, you would expect to chop in that kind of scenario. But yeah, no, he killed it. It was an awesome lineup, and dude deserves it.
Yeah, definitely does deserve it without a doubt. Let's talk about everything that happened on that NBA slate last night. First game, we had the Timberwolves and Knicks. This one stayed extremely close, just like we expected it to. We saw Evan Fournier absolutely ball out for this Knicks team, which we're not used to seeing. The only time he balls out is when he gets to face off against his old Celtics. But seems like he's going to show up for Timberwolves games too. I saw a funny post yesterday that said Evan Fournier is averaging 55 Fanduel points in 3 games versus the Celtics, and he's averaging 20 Fanduel points in every other game this season. So, he's been very inconsistent, but Fournier definitely showed up for this Knicks team last night.
He did. It's really weird to see. I don't even
Yeah.
know how you can even call that. um, but yeah, no, it's crazy. So shout out to people who played him. That's
Yeah.
one of Black Eddie's players as well. It's not a surprise. I feel like you have to pretty much have the perfect lineup to do anything on a 2-game slate like that. So the starters for the Knicks did their normal thing. I guess the one thing I'm surprised by is how much run Mitchell Robinson did not get. 20 minutes compared to what he would normally get in that starting rotation. Everybody else played pretty much what we expected. But yeah, kind of again, the Knicks are one of my least favorite teams to talk about just because it's just disgusting from a
Mm-hmm.
box score standpoint always.
Dude,
So
whenever Kemba comes back to this team, it's just so ugly. Like
it's so
when
bad.
it's so bad whenever Kemba comes back to this team. It's infinitely terrible.
When you would think that, on top of that, you would think that they'd actually be winning with a lineup like this, but they're not.
No.
They've lost 2 in a row, 5-5 in their last 10 games. They're under 500 now. I was gonna make this comment, but I wanted to wait until after to not jinx myself. But yeah, Timberwolves better in the standings and overall record than this Knicks team.
No. No, I mean, not that much of a surprise. This Timberwolves team carries a really solid defense. And it wasn't necessarily on display last night, but throughout the season, they've been a top 10 defense, which is pretty impressive considering what this team is. Uh, First of all, afternoon to Will. Bacon said, we tried to pull a fast one on him by starting late. Look, there was things that needed to get handled, all right? We woke up to a lot of shit this morning that needed to get handled, and so it was getting handled. Good afternoon to Hockey Fan 26 as well. Here's a good question. How did the Timberwolves win and not a single player has over 33 FanDuel points? This is a great question by Bacon23 from the chat, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what in the world is this Timberwolves team doing?
Well, believe it or not, that means that they're deep
Yeah.
for once and playing good basketball. Now I guess 500 is or above 500 is a step. It's a huge step up. Like it's
Yeah.
not where you 100% want to be, but it's a huge step up for this team in general. Also, just the minutes pretty spread out between a lot of people. They even got Noel who came back and played 23, which was nice to see. But yeah, I mean, it's just gonna be one of those things where, I mean, unless somebody's out, like you can't play any of them in DFS. But we were forced to last night because of a 2-game slate. It's one of those things where Josh, it just feels like we'll never talk about these players for cash, but in tournaments, this is where you can kind of take advantage of this team.
Yeah, man. I said that one guy was going to step up for this Timberwolves team. Turns out no one stepped up, and they all just did their individual roles. And this Minnesota Timberwolves team is certainly interesting when they're fully healthy and almost completely not DFS viable. Shout out to Bacon for saying Josh's take at the beginning of the year of Minnesota #1 defense not looking too dumb. Yeah, I got it right this year. I might have got it completely wrong last year, but this is the year where I get my defensive takes right for the NBA. By the way, shout out the man, the myth, the legend is here. I don't know if Black Eddie heard us talking about him at the beginning of the stream, but Black Eddie is in the house and he subbed at tier 1. We greatly appreciate it, man. He's been subbed for 8 months, so that is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, dude. Welcome to the stream. Also, I have been waiting for the Timberwolves to be good for a long time, so it's
Yeah,
kind of
man.
nice to see that it's like they're good, and I hope that they actually take the 8 spot from one of the LA teams. That's kind of what I'm hoping for, just as I love the drama. So,
I'm hoping they buy,
uh,
man. I'm hoping they're buyers at the trade deadline. I don't know
yeah,
who
that'd
you
be
buy
cool.
with this team, but like buy, buy, buy. Maybe
Well,
this is
wouldn't
the
you want
team.
to?
Maybe this is the team where you get Ben Simmons. Because I don't know if you heard the NBA podcast
Yeah,
yesterday, but we were talking about
yeah.
the Ben Simmons stuff for quite a while. Maybe this is where, because like I talked about it, how every single team that Ben Simmons could go to already has a defined point guard and a defined ball handler. This is the one team that, I mean, Patrick Beverly is not the truth. Patrick Beverly
Right.
should not be your point guard if you're going to be a solid playoff team.
No, I agree. And again, they're a team that they don't really want, like, they definitely don't want to give away Edwards or Towns, and Russell was acquired to keep Towns happy. So it's like,
No.
what are your other options at that point? I don't think you want to necessarily give away Beverly, but if you had to, a pretty good comparison on defense would be Ben Simmons. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best shot you probably got with that. And he also brings a little bit something to the table offensively. Malik Beasley would be the only guy that I would consider moving. Maybe like you put him, Nas Reed, and you don't really want to give Vanderbilt away this early in his career because he definitely has something here. But there are some players that can go. I just don't know if it's enough because I think if you are the Sixers, like I know Detroit put a lot of players in that package. It's basically like some of their main pieces that aren't the young guys. So Minnesota's in a different, similar but different situation where you're going to have to give up one of Russell, Towns, Edwards, or Beasley, maybe even two to get that trade to work.
I feel like Simmons and Cat are buddies. I feel like I remember that vaguely or seeing that somewhere. So if they're buddies, maybe that'll keep him happy and they can trade Russell out of town. Because Russell on the 76ers, I can already see it in my head. It almost makes too much sense. So something to
Yeah,
consider. I mean, if you pair up Russell, Vanderbilt, and let's see, Malik Beasley. There you go. You said Malik Beasley. I think that works. Add up those three guys in the first round draft pick. I would say yes if I was the 76ers. I would also say yes if I'm the Timberwolves. That seems like a solid deal.
it's I do think that Ben Simmons helps this team. It's just who is involved. That would be my scariest thing for the Wolves because for the first time in several, when's the last time they had a 500 season or above? It's been a long time.
It
So
has. I would have to
if you
go
think
dig,
about
but
that, yeah, I mean, if you think about that, like, why would you want to necessarily blow it up right now to acquire Ben Simmons? It makes sense because I think that he could be a step up from a lot of this, but at the same time, I have my tendencies or hesitancies, and maybe they are. I do think they're a buyer at the end of the day. I do. I just don't know if this is like the best destination to go to for that.
since 2000, no, I'm not going to use since 2000. They were good because Garnett was with them in the late two or in the early 2000s. So since 2005, they've had 3 seasons where they've been over 500. That is
Yep.
including this season, and hoping that they stay over 500. So very interesting. We'll see what they do, but I would like to see this team be buyers. Just like you said, who do you sell is the real thing, and who do you give up in that type of trade? And it's pretty difficult. Anything else in this game? If not, let's talk about the utter destruction that the Warriors were carrying out against the Pistons. At least through the first half. I know things got closer in the second.
Yeah, I mean, not really a surprise here, right?
No,
uh, it was over very quickly, and the Golden State Warriors kind of just played throughout the rest of the second half
no.
nonchalantly. Uh, Again, not much to say, but you had to have the right Detroit pieces to be able to take down stuff last night or even cash in the first place. Killian Hayes going down early after playing 9 minutes and no stats at all. Uh, that definitely hurt, as well as some of these Warriors just not getting the extended run. Like, we kind of expected that to happen. Curry wasn't. Curry just wasn't necessary last night in tournaments, and you saw uh, I'm actually curious to see if Eddie. We don't actually know Eddie if you who you had in your builds. Did you have Thompson? Because I feel like that would have been a way that you were able to take down tournaments last night. Because we knew it eventually, like he was going to catch fire one of these days.
Yeah, I played Clay Thompson. I called Sean dumb for putting him in 100% of MMEs, and I guess I was wrong. I don't know. This Clay Thompson thing, he went off. And, I kind of realized when I made a mistake once you pointed out that this was the only time he's been at home since the first game. Like, I was like, all right, that makes sense why he's probably gonna have a good game here. He ended up having the most points on the team and only played 22 minutes to get those points. I want to talk about Jonathan Kuminga for a second, though, because we found out that he is now going to be the starter as long as Draymond is out.
Mm.
That's huge. And I mean, I know the Warriors talked about trading away their picks at one point during that draft, but they ended up going with Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga. Do you feel like this has worked out so far? Like, or was this a good strategy for the Warriors to use both of those picks instead of trading them for a piece somewhere else?
I think they really like what they have in Kaminga. They've shared it all off season and most of the fall. So I think that they're giving him the run that they want to see from him. And I think that they're using this. They might end up using this as an evaluation period for some of these guys because right now they have their studs. Obviously, Curry. I would consider Wiggins in that group. Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. Obviously, you still have Wiseman who's on his way back. Uh, and you have to decide what you're going to do because right now they cannot compete. Um, they can't compete down low, so you need to figure out what's going on, which is why I think that they're giving Kaminga the run that they're giving him. Maybe it's to shop him, maybe it's to do something else, but I think this Warriors team has to be buyers in the front court in order to compete with the rest of the league. So, yeah, I think that they are using this as an evaluation period for both of those guys, and you might see some moves coming shortly and some weird rotations for some of these other guys on this team.
Doesn't it make the most sense to go out and get Sabonis? Like, if any team can do it,
Yeah.
it's this team. I know
Yep.
we're about to get to NBA news and talk a little bit about trade deadline stuff because it came out that the Pacers are wanting an All Star essentially in
Yep.
return
Yep.
for Sabonis. I know, like in my head when I'm thinking of a package here, it's probably Wiseman, Jordan Poole, maybe probably Moses Moody at the end of the day to in a pick to get Sabonis from this Warriors team. Like if you give up that type of haul for Sabonis, are you excited about that for the Warriors?
Oh, sure. I mean, why not? Like,
Yeah.
I think that Wiseman would be a tough place to get there, but like, you don't have, if you're expecting, we'll talk about the Pacers because they're expecting to not finish the season with both Sabonis and Turner. Like, they will both be out in the next month. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense for them in the short and long term situation from a big man standpoint. Also works for the Warriors. The only issue I see is that it's not going to adhere to what they want for him in terms of all-star caliber players. Like that's what I don't understand, right? Like you're Indiana, what all-star level player is going to want to go get traded from their team to go join yours? So
Yeah.
like maybe they have to give up Wiggins, but I don't see the Warriors doing that.
Yeah, I'm really curious what this Warriors team is going to do because I mean this seems like the best buy out there. This seems like the most appropriate team to go get one of those two guys in Turner or Sabonis. And you add
Yep.
Sabonis to this team. I'm not going to say Sabonis isn't Kevin Durant, obviously, but like it feels very similar to that team where you have four elite talents on your team that can really take things over.
I agree. And while I don't expect Draymond Green to miss more than a month here, like they need help because
You know,
yes, they destroyed the Pistons, but they haven't been playing well that that well lately. They've definitely struggled in a tough stretch. Now they're going to be fine. They're 32-12. Um, but yeah, I think that they obviously they want the one seed, but they've fallen to several of these good teams, and the only one that they didn't was they blew out Chicago. So they have. We get to pretty much like you don't, but I'll get to talk about this tomorrow. Pacers and Warriors are the late night game. So
nice.
yeah, very
Some deals can
unique
be done
timing there.
in the box suites, is what I'm
Yep,
hearing.
yep, very unique time frame there. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're this Warriors team, I feel like you try to make this trade before the trade deadline, just because if you can, um, you're 2.5 games back of the Suns. The Grizzlies are 2 games back and have beaten you twice this year, and the Jazz are 3 games back of you. And
Yep.
the Jazz aren't doing great recently, but like the point is that you could fall to the 4 seed if you continue to have Draymond sit out. I mean, not sit out. He's out due to an injury, but as he continues to be out, you could drop down to the 4 seed. And with how strong the top of the West is and how weak the bottom of the West is, these teams at the top seem pretty solid to stay at the top, unless a key piece gets injured.
Yeah, and they have a very strong end of the season, so they are going to need that help in the standings, especially if these four teams continue to win the rate that they're doing right now. So yeah, I would expect if they want to pull the trigger, I would expect them to do it over the next week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yep.
Um, let's we'll get back to the Clippers. Let's talk about these Pacers since we're already on here. The Miles Turner situation. Apparently, he has some sort of injury. Officially now to be sitting out through the trade deadline. I expect that he goes. He's probably in the first two or three announcements. Could happen before the trade deadline. I think he's in the same boat as Sabonis is, and honestly, could see the Warriors do this trade instead.
Yeah, you could. And I think like this is the value options essentially. Like if you're looking to not pay that because you probably aren't giving up Wiseman in this deal. But if you aren't giving up Wiseman in this deal, where does Turner fit in this lineup? Because if is Wiseman going to be a back like Wiseman shouldn't be a backup center at the end of the day, or are you giving up Wiseman in return for Turner and more? Like, are you getting bench pieces from that Pacers team? But even if you get bench pieces from this Pacers team, like who on this team actually helps you? Like, does Jeremy Lamb help you? Does Justin Holiday help you? Does you know? I don't feel like any of those guys make a difference for the Warriors. So I just feel like the Miles Turner deal doesn't work out just because of the values on both teams.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Indiana's in a really they're in an app. Well, okay, this season's a complete wash, but they are in a fine opportunity to be able to capitalize on this. So I really hope that they think that through. From if anybody in here is Pacers fans, you have something. Like there's something here where you can get a you're not going to turn around and automatically win next year, but you can certainly put yourself in a good position to start a 3 to 5 year rebuild.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you have Chris Duarte. I think Chris Duarte is one of the more underrated rookies. You still have Malcolm Brogdon. TJ McConnell's on the shelf for the year, but when he comes back, he's always a solid bench piece for you. Like, this team has pieces, and if you capitalize on trading away Sabonis and Turner and getting the appropriate packages, you can really set yourself up for the future. So I like what this Pacers team is doing. I think if you're a Pacers fan, I know this season has sucked, but you won't have to look much farther. I think your team gets infinitely better with the trading of these two. Let's go back to this Kawhi situation, especially because I've already talked with someone in the Cardboard 47 chat about F the Clippers and how, Lakers fans can always rejoice in the fact that we are not Clippers fans. But we got the news that the Clippers extended the downtime for PG 13 to being out indefinitely. One of the worst words to hear if you're talking about injuries. We already know Kawhi is out indefinitely as well. I mean, could it get any worse as a Clippers fan? The fact that we talked about this yesterday, they're in a really, really bad spot right now to where you don't have the assets to trade. You don't really have young assets on this team, and you're not competing at this point. So, like, where is this Clippers team at in your eyes?
They're still going to end up being a playing team just because of how terrible the teams below them are.
Yeah,
Uh, you have they have a 4 game lead on the next seed, which is the Blazers at 10. And I expect the Blazers and Kings to sell off almost their entire teams coming in soon here, just the way things are shaping up. Spurs, they're involved in some trade talks as well. There was one that already happened this morning or last night, and then the Thunder and Rockets aren't going to catch up to this Clippers team. So I don't think anybody, barring like a massive Clippers collapse, which could happen, is going to take them out of this play-in scenario. Which again, to your point, like big market, if you're under 500 or at 500 and you're not in a place to actually contend, that's probably one of the worst things to see as a
yeah.
big market GM.
Oh, 100%. Without a doubt. By
Like
the
at
way,
least if you're losing, like if you're in the bottom two, you're at least like looking forward to next year and saying that it's a rebuild year or whatever. But this is just like both your stars are injured, your money's all tied up, you're screwed.
well, especially because like if you are a bottom two team, then as a big market team, you can get people excited for the rookie that you're about to bring on board. Like
Sure.
the all of the marketing that can go behind that rookie can really elevate the team as well as elevate that rookie too. So there's things to be excited about if you're kind of losing as a big market team. But if you're just sitting in the middle and, like you said, getting a play in spot, like that is probably your worst case scenario. Fatty McGee says, "What's up, my dudes? How we doing today? We're doing great over here." Bacon23 says, "Any division bets to be made? Do you wanna? I mean, I know we have to get out of here pretty soon, but." Do you want to save that for maybe tomorrow or Friday, going over some division bets to be made for the NBA?
Yeah, we can cover it on Friday.
Okay, sweet. So we'll plan on doing it on Friday, giving you guys some division bets. Maybe Jared and I will both take our favorite options and make a little friendly wager on something to do at the end of the NBA season. But let's keep rolling through here. Anything else for the NBA recap? If not, we have some NFL news to talk about.
The only thing that came out last night, which little to no DFS implications here, but there's a 3-way trade. Bryn Forbes goes to Boston from San Antonio. It's a 3-way trade, so Denver sends Bol Bol and PJ Dozier. By the way, Bol Bol never made it to Detroit. He failed physical. So he's going now to Boston with PJ Dozier, and then Spurs get Juancho Hernan-Gomez and a Denver 2028 second round. So nothing
2028.
crazy. The one thing that makes sense, Bryn Forbes, Boston needs 3-point shooting.
Yeah, Bryn Forbes is, I think, the most talented piece out of anyone in this group. So excited to see what Bryn Forbes can do. But it already felt like they had a guard backlog. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there. It will be interesting for the Celtics to see how Forbes does.
Oh, sorry. I think did I get this wrong? I might have just mixed my words up. I
Yeah,
think
you did.
Forbes goes.
Forbes,
Forbes went to Boston
no, Forbes went to Denver.
or Denver.
Bobo
Denver.
and
Sorry.
Dozier went to the Celtics. It's all right. We'll get there
There you
sooner
go.
or later.
There we go. I got it. So yeah, either way, both of those teams need 3-point shooting. But yeah,
Yeah.
Forbes makes sense.
Forbes makes a lot more sense on Denver now that I should have realized that he's going to Denver. That's a key piece to play in the guard position because they need guards desperately right now. But let's talk about NFL news. I know you have stuff lined up here, but I want to talk about something that just happened that we got breaking news on. Really, and just to make matters worse for the Clippers, Batum just went into health and safety protocols. But
Oh,
let me find where is this tweet. Adam Schefter just put it out that Bruce Arians was fined
yep.
for striking one of his players, striking
Hmm.
his own safety, Andrew Adams. Do you
Yep.
know? Did I miss something? Do you know what this is
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. It was after a play that basically there was some kind of skirmish, and
Never mind.
the Bucks player got into it with somebody on the Eagles. There was whistles blowing everywhere, but Bruce Arians came onto the field. It was near their sideline, and he basically just smacked the crap out of his player on the field. Which
Yeah.
is, as a coach, you're not able to do that while the there's you
Well,
can't go on
cameras
the
are
field
rolling.
live. Things are in play. So like the play was just ending, but he definitely overstepped his boundaries. That's like a typical fine for a coach. For those of you guys who don't know, there are two specific people on each team that are their job is to literally stand next to the head coach, follow him everywhere, make sure he doesn't cross onto the field of play, and literally push him back in. It's been highlighted on a few teams, but Arians is a guy that does it a lot.
Yeah, I'm about to put the clip in the good skill chat room for anyone to see what exactly we're talking about because there's someone who in the comments had a video of it and posted it to talk more about this. Um, but yeah, I think that is super super interesting. You know, it is what
Yeah,
it is. I
it
guess at
was.
the end of the day.
It's basically like it looked on TV. It looked like he was just mad at his own player, which he was.
Yeah,
But the reason he got fined wasn't for hitting the dude. He basically was just like, "Do better. What are you doing? Like, don't get in a fight right now."
yeah.
Um,
Wasn't like there was
but
like punches thrown or anything. It was just
no,
it
no,
was like
no,
a
no.
coaching thing. Yeah.
Like the reason that he got fined is because he stepped on the field.
I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily true. I
You
think it
think
might have
so?
been.
All right.
I think it might have been. I mean, like at least according to Schefter's tweet, he got fined for striking his own player.
Oh, come on. All right, whatever.
I mean, that's just where coaching is nowadays, man. Man, I think the NFL should review some of the coaches that we have in UFC because there'd be many, many fines on some of these UFC coaches. But I guess that's a story for another day. Anyway, I thought that was interesting and living up to our New Year's resolution of breaking news on the show as well. But let's talk about some of the other NFL news. Dak came out and said he deeply regrets his comments about the officials. For those who don't know what happened here, Dak made a comment about a fan who was throwing water bottles. Those water bottles were hitting players, including Demarcus Lawrence. And then a reporter informed Dak that those water bottles were meant to aim for the referees. And Dak said, "Well, credit to them then." And yeah, no one looked at that very well. No one wants to see you encourage you throwing fans throwing trash at referees, and so people were up in storm about it all throughout yesterday, including Shannon Sharp talking about it on Undisputed. And yeah, he comes out and apologizes for it. So I think you see some type of fine at the end of the day, but you know it's definitely an interesting little tidbit here.
Yeah, I
But
can't
he's
get
not going
over
to get
the
many roughing the passing calls next year.
yeah, right. Oh man, I would love to watch Jerry Jones's press conference over and over and over again, trying to explain why.
Yep.
Like, at the end of the day, everybody gives Jerry so much shit all the time,
Uh-huh.
and he gives it to himself too. Like he puts himself in those situations. But the one person that you cannot blame for this Cowboys season is him because he did everything right. He got the talent. He put together an amazing team and a pretty decent coaching staff. And yeah, execution was just not there this season.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't. Let's talk about some other things that happened around the league. Seahawks fired their defensive coordinator Norton. They are keeping Carroll, and they are optimistic about the chances of Russ staying in Seattle. So this is good news. We talked about how this defense was tremendously awful, basically the whole entire year, and so firing the DC seemed like the right move. I will be interested to see who they hire because a good hire here could really fix a defense that isn't that bad.
Well, they had some issues at safety this year and injuries as usual. It's been the thing for the Seahawks lately. Their defense, though, did rank in the bottom three the entire season. Not historically bad, but pretty close. If the Jets weren't as bad as they were, we'd be talking more about Seattle's run defense. But yeah, they lost both their safeties like to like a halfway point through the 3/4 point through the year. So they really didn't have much to play for, and the Russ injury just kind of tanked the whole team.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Tomlin, the head coach for the Steelers, says that he is uh, having all options on the table for the Steelers quarterback position now that they are without Big Ben after his retirement. So you have a lot of options for this Steelers team. Are you going to go to the draft and get someone? Are you going to go to the trade market and get someone? Don't think there's really any free agent QBs to go out there and get. Maybe Daniel Jones is an option. But there's a lot of guys that this Steelers team could bring in. If you had to make a guess right now, who is starting for the Steelers at the QB position in 2022?
Yeah, Tomlin's never had to make this decision before because he's been with Ben the whole time.
Yep.
15 years now. Now he has to kind of make this decision. And then, there's this 1% chance that Ben comes back, but all signs point to him. If you're like the writing on the walls there, it's only a matter of time before he announces that, probably this week. So I think we can make the guesses all we want, but I think that we have no idea. And knowing trying to guess is kind of pointless, but we'll try anyway. Um, I do think that Kenny Pickett's going to go before they pick.
Yeah,
I
I
think that
agree.
I think that their playoff win or the fact that they were a playoff team is going to hurt this decision moving forward.
Yep.
So I'm seeing things about Russell Wilson, even though I'm less optimistic. By the way, going back to the Seahawks thing, there was a report that came out last week that Russell Wilson was quote unquote exploring options and not 100% committed to Seattle. So
Interesting.
whatever that means, who
Yeah.
knows? But it sounded they sound very optimistic that they're going to keep him because frankly, they saw what it looked like when he wasn't playing with them this year. So um, I'm not counting Russell Wilson to go to Pittsburgh. I'm also not counting Aaron Rodgers to go to Pittsburgh either. So
No.
I think that you're looking at maybe a guy like Jameis Winston, uh, that's actually in the league, and you have to figure out you're going to cut one of Rudolph or Hobbs. Neither of those are starters.
Yeah.
Um, I actually like Hobbs over Rudolph, but they're both bad. Now you're kind of left in a situation where I think the Pittsburgh Steelers end up taking Sam Howell, but I don't think I don't think he's ready to start either. So
No.
we could see Jameis Winston in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think sadly you're going to see Jimmy G thrown into the same situation that he was with the Niners. I think you see
Yep.
Jimmy G traded here. I think you see the Steelers take a guy like Sam Howell or Malik Willis as the backup, and Jimmy G's kind of, asked to leave before even getting a foot in the door necessarily. He'll be the starter for a season or two, and then they'll try to go to that rookie QB. But I feel fairly confident that that makes the most sense for the Steelers with their cap situation and everything, is to get Jimmy G, trade for him, whatever that ends up costing. Probably cost them their first round pick with picks in return. I think Jimmy G is going to be the guy that's going to be under center for 2022 for the Steelers team.
I definitely can see it. Again, for me, it's always about. I mean, do you really think like what at what point are you not satisfied with Jimmy G's play? Now he almost blew the game last week, but
Yeah, yeah. Watch
at
out.
what point? At what like does he if he wins a Super Bowl does he stay?
No,
Is that where things are at right now? Yeah,
no.
that's kind of what I think too.
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters if he wins a Super Bowl. I don't think it matters if every game is a blowout from here on out in the playoffs. Like if they're winning, even if they win 40-20 in every single game, I still think Jimmy G is gone. I almost called it Jimmy John's. Jimmy G is gone at the end of the year. Just because you spent too much on Trey Lance. Like, unless you're willing to trade Trey Lance, but I think there's too much potential and opportunity there to trade him away without knowing exactly what you have, right? You know what you have with Jimmy G. Other teams know what is coming with Jimmy G, and you can make an appropriate trade. I really don't think it matters how far this 49ers team goes. Jimmy G is gone at the end of the year.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I
All he's
definitely
doing
can't
right now
disagree.
is just improving his trade stock, which I
You're
personally
right.
love. I think it's the
Yeah,
best case scenario, right? Because if he proves that he's a winner in the playoffs, he's already brought us to a Super Bowl once. If he's able to even bring us to an NFC championship for the second one, for the second time he gets into the playoffs, he's a guy that warrants a first round pick and probably more too.
yeah. I mean that win last week, I think, was more impressive than anything that he's done so far in his
Yeah.
career.
I would agree. That was, I mean, Romo was talking about it a ton. How it was kind of a prove it situation for Jimmy, and he did exactly that at the end of the day and proved it. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm excited to see what we can get for Jimmy G because I think we could truly get quite a package for him, especially if we continue to stay competitive in the playoffs. But that all matters. That all depends on what that Packers matchup looks like. All right. Do you want to go over these NFL rookie rankings? I know we only have 6 minutes, but I feel like we're going to go over time on this stream most likely.
We can always move this. That's fine.
Let's move this to Friday and we can talk about it a little bit more. Friday's most likely going to be a little bit slower of a news day anyway, so we'll move it to Friday. Let's talk about Houston open to trading the number 3 pick and opening options on Watson as well. This is going to be really interesting to see what Houston does. I kind of understand them moving on from that number 3 pick, but I still think Kyle Hamilton's the best player in this draft, regardless of Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau. And I think teams are gonna fail to realize that, and he could drop really far being the 5th or 6th pick. Because I think if he drops that far, whoever gets him gets a steal.
Yeah, I mean Houston hasn't really been too smart on these decisions, so I think
That
that
is true.
they might. So here's the thing, like Watson right now is going to start gaining attention again, but are you giving away too much if you're pairing that number 3 pick with Watson in a trade? And I think the answer is yes by a long shot. I think that he's worth a couple, like a third, a fifth, and like you can pair that, but pairing him with a first is just not a good idea.
Yeah, I mean the haul that you would have to get in return to get a third and Watson, I feel like you're giving up the camp, like you're giving up the whole team almost. And so I
Yeah.
don't know exactly how that works if you give up Watson and that third. I feel like it's more likely that maybe they're separate trades, getting a haul for Watson, getting a haul for the third, even if you're just moving back in the draft. Um, Maybe that makes a little bit more sense. But we'll have to see. This Houston team has made some pretty dumb decisions when it comes to trading. So it definitely wouldn't be a surprise to see even more dumb decisions later down the line. So this is going to be one of the more interesting teams during the offseason. But anything else here? If not, we can move on, talk about a little bit of college basketball.
Yeah, speaking of not dumb decisions, it looks like Howie Roseman came to his senses and stated that Jalen Hurts has earned the starting QB job for 2022. So that's not going to be an offseason topic, which I'm thankful for.
Finally, finally, dude. It was all we talked about last year, and it's obvious that he's the guy, and he's a really good guy to have at the QB position. So they definitely have their guy now, and it'll be exciting to see what he can do with now having that full season under his belt finally. But let's get to talking about college basketball. The section of this pod or the section of this show that I have not been looking forward to. Let's just get it over with. Let's rip up the band-aid. Number 6 Duke loses to Florida State in OT. It especially sucked because I was watching this game with one of my buddies, and he was like, "Oh, look, we have the lead now. We'll be good. Like we're gonna get this win." And then boom, 3-pointer, game's over, and definitely twisted the knife a little bit for this game. But number 6 Duke Now probably going to fall out of the top 10. Not a good look for Coach K's last season.
You think they're going to fall out of the top 10 with this one?
I think
I don't
so.
know.
I think so because Florida State's unranked. So at the end of the day, like this is our third loss on the road. It's a little bit concerning, especially since ACC play is so weak this year. Like this was supposed to be a walkthrough of ACC play, and we're just not performing very well. So I think they fall out of top 10.
Okay. I mean, the one argument that I have is that so many of these top 5 teams are losing, so maybe
Yeah,
they won't.
maybe.
But yeah, this segment of the show we'll basically just run through until March Madness begins or until we start talking about conference tournaments. We'll just highlight the top 25 teams, kind of what happened with them, and I guess what that means moving forward for the next week. So pretty simple. Baylor gets a win on the board against West Virginia. Uh, Kansas does defeat Oklahoma after a clutch 3-pointer late in the game. Kansas number 7 survives. Wisconsin number 8 seed beats Northwestern on the road. I could easily see them going into the top 5 by the end of the month. They just need to keep winning. So Johnny Davis 27 points, 8 rebounds last night.
Yeah,
Houston number.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
No,
I was
go
just gonna
ahead.
say that performance. I got to see a little bit of that performance by Johnny Davis. It was like played during like a commercial break or something during that Duke game, and he had a game, man. He looked really good last night.
Yep. Continues to carry the team. You're going to see him be. It's already too late to kind of bet him for winning Player of the Year unless competition starts to ramp up a little bit. But I think that as of right now, it's kind of the clear front runner. Houston number 10 beats South Florida handedly by 20. Texas Tech. The only real thing that we need to talk about here is that they upset Iowa State. Big win for them. These teams are now have the same record, but Texas Tech holds the edge in the conference. Ohio State wins big. Keep an eye on Loyola Chicago. They broke up through the top 25 a couple weeks ago. They're probably going to be the favorite, the champion of the MVC, and we'll see them in the tournament again. I don't expect them to make the run that they've made the past couple seasons, given that some of those players are not on the team anymore. But any other things you want to cover for this top 25?
No, it's going to be interesting to see this top 25 down the stretch. I can't wait to keep going over this as we get into March Madness time. So, very excited and can't wait to keep paying attention to it on the morning after show. Let's talk a little bit about UFC 270. Lots going on here, but really we'll cover more on Friday. This is more so just a reminder that we are going live at 9:45. Did I get that right?
Eastern
9:45 p.m.
time.
Yep, 9:45 p.m. Eastern time on this Twitch channel to do a live watch along to watch the UFC event with you guys. I think Jared and I will probably both be drinking, so maybe it's a little bit of a drug stream almost, and it'll be a good time, man. We'll have fun. I'll be giving out live bets because I do live bets every single UFC card, and usually I'm not able to give you guys that information over text channels in Discord, but I'll be able to give it over voice. So I'm excited for that. And Fatty McGee says film sesh. Yes, film session is happening this week. There will be a document in the UFC Discord chat posted within the next hour or so to have you guys select some times to watch that film session with me. So I'm excited for that as well. But anything you want to comment on for the UFC 270 stream?
No, other than you. Yeah, we're well, just for the some of you that are still listening to today's stream, we're giving away a lot of stuff. So
Yeah, we
it's
are.
the first of many things that we're doing this year to kind of help grow the community. A thing that we've never done before. We've never done a watch party on Twitch ever. So I
No.
know we've sweat things out in the Discord before, voice only, but you'll actually see something that's different from what you're seeing right now on the screen.
Yeah, it'll be a good time for sure. All right, Jared, we won our NHL Blind Dogs, and from what I heard from Anthony, it was nearly impossible to lose because underdogs won rampantly last night. I think 6 out of the 8 games that happened last night had underdogs win, so it was pretty hard to mess this up. But Flames ended up winning for me, and the Canes ended up winning for you. So 2 big wins that get us to 4-7 and 4-6 respectively. And now we get to choose today's NHL Blind Dogs. We have 3 games on the board. I think I know who my pick is. I'm curious to see who yours is.
Yeah, I think I know what yours is too, so I'll probably not be that guy and not pick the same game.
Yeah.
So
Hey, if we take
I'm
the same
taking,
game, we take the same game, man. At the end of the day, it is
yeah.
what it is.
I mean, there is a clear team to bet on today, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the Anaheim Ducks at home plus 221. I know it's a long shot, but we've seen worse.
Hey, I like it. Not a bad bet whatsoever. I guess. I mean, it's blind dogs. Who knows? But I'm taking the Rangers plus 134 at
Yep.
home. Toronto Maple Leafs traveling into New York. Give me the dub here. I think they pull it off. So we'll have to see. Again, these are blind dogs. These are done with no research. So bet on them appropriately. But Jared, that is the end of the morning after show, or I guess it's the afternoon after show today because of how late we started. But any final thoughts before we get out of here, man?
Huge NBA slate given the fact that we only had 2 games last night, 13 games today. I have a Roto Radar Rumble contest for that as well this afternoon. Just make sure to hang out in the Discord and let's take another one down today.
Let's do exactly that. All right. Thank you all for hanging out. We greatly appreciate it. Make sure to keep tuning in throughout the week. We're going to start, giving away more prizes on this stream and doing a lot of fun stuff as well. So, just stay tuned and we'll have a good time. As always, my name is Joshua Reimer. Good morning and good skill.